President Trump says he's considering a new plan to build his border wall. Here it is.
I may declare a national emergency dependent on what's going to happen over the next few days.
Joining us now is Independent Senator Angus King of Maine. He serves on the Senate Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. He's going to talk about this and so much more. Great to have you in studio.
Alison, a pleasure to be here.
Do you see that national emergency as an idle threat? Do you think there is any way President Trump could go around Congress to build his border wall?
At first, I thought it was an idle threat, but then I'm reading all the stories about White House counsel is looking into it, and they're looking at all these obscure laws. I don't think it's an idle threat. I think it's a dangerous threat, though. If you go back to 1787, the Federalist Papers, the Constitution, this is what they were afraid of.
What were the framers afraid of that we're seeing right now?
A monarchical president. They took such care to divide power and to allocate powers between the Congress, the president, the courts. And here we are with a president that's trying to end run the constitutional process, or at least is thinking about it. And this is what they didn't want. The president is in a constitutional system where there are co-equal branches of government. And if he wants to enact some kind of policy, it's got to be through the Congress. He doesn't seem to get that.
I think I read that you said that the White House are acting like hostage takers.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, they're taking the whole country hostage, in a sense, with this government shutdown, because they can't get a policy through the normal process. It's not supposed to work that way. And the problem, Alison, is it's not about $5 billion or even necessarily about the wall. Is this going to be the pattern for this administration to whatever they want and can't get through the normal process? They're going to say, OK, we'll veto the budget. We'll veto the next round of spending bills. And that's why I think this is so important. This issue is bigger than simply the wall or the $5 billion.
But the Democrats do you think the Democrats are somehow misplaying their hand here? The president has waffled so much on what even a wall is. So why don't Democrats say, I mean, look, you were part of a bill, a bipartisan bill, where you offered $25 billion for border security, and now the Democrats don't want to give him $5 billion?
Well, the problem is there's no telling where it will stop. And you've got to remember that $25 billion was a full solution to the DACA problem. That was the deal. That was the compromise. The White House had the wall in their hands, and they couldn't take yes for an answer, even though it involved DACA, which was something they said they wanted. That's one of the problems with negotiating with this White House is they keep moving the goalposts, and you never know from one day to the next who's authorized to make a deal and whether it will stick.
So here we are.
Ask Mitch McConnell, by the way, about it.
It does seem like the football has been pulled out from Charlie Brown on that. So, as you know, Senators Van Hollen and Ben Cardin, Democratic senators, have said that they do not think that they should do anything, that the Senate should take up any business until the government is reopened. Do you agree with that tact?
I'm not sure whether that's fair to the other parts of the government. If we can get things done in the midst of this, it seems to me we ought to be considering that. But we ought to get this shutdown over with. And you know, one of the problems, let me just say a couple things. Nobody in Congress is in favor of open borders. I'm so tired of hearing people say it's either the wall or open borders. That's nonsense. Everybody is for border security. The question is, let's do it in a rational, economic, sensible way. There are places where wall makes sense, but there are a lot of places where it doesn't. It's unbelievably expensive. Let's do something that will be real border security, not symbolic borders.
But then why does Nancy Pelosi, and we just had Louis Gutierrez on here, who's now a CNN contributor, he's left Congress, as you know, and they both say that the wall is immoral. How is a wall immoral and a fence isn't?
I have to admit that I don't get that. I don't understand the immoral part. I think it doesn't make sense. I think there are places where it's sort of ridiculous, and but I got to be honest. This is a place where I disagree with the speaker. I don't understand the immoral part. I just think it's bad policy, and that you shouldn't take the government hostage for a policy that you couldn't enact through normal process. One of the problems, Alison, we've never seen a plan that I know of. There's never been, here's the wall, here's
you don't know how many miles,
right,
what it's supposed to be made of, what part is open that it's going to be fixing.
What it's going to cost, you know, 2,000 miles, what's going to be where. There's never been a plan, and this is sort of like the Syria policy, ready, fire, aim. let's do a little of the aiming first. Talk about where a wall might be necessary, where it should be fencing, where it should be drones, where it should be border patrol. And then we can have a rational discussion about what do we do, how do we pay for it. That's how this is supposed to work.
Let's talk about if you understand what's happening in Syria. The president said he wanted U.S. troops to rapidly withdraw. It sounds like John Bolton, his national security advisor, has said now something completely different. You were one of, I believe, 5 senators,
right.
Lindsey Graham, Joni Ernst, Tom Cotton, Marco Rubio.
It was a pretty odd group.
It was a disparate group,
Yeah.
right, from all across the aisle that sent a letter to the White House really advising cooler heads to prevail. Maybe they heard you.
Well, I never want to assume that, although, I do have immense power, but no. But the letter basically said, do what John Bolton just did this weekend. Talk to the allies, reassure the allies, don't abandon the Kurds. Let's not pull out on Israel. Let's not hand a victory to Russia and Iran, is exactly what the letter said. That's what John Bolton has said this weekend. Now, here's the question in the next 24 hours. He's going to Turkey. And will Erdogan buy into this strategy, which involves protecting our Kurdish allies who have been with us from the start and have literally taken bullets for us against ISIS, from being crushed by the Turks? That's going to be the test. Or is Erdogan going to put in a call to the White House, and all of a sudden we're back where we started?
Because in the past, that is what some believe prompted the president's tweet calling for a rapid withdrawal was a conversation with Erdogan. So as you sit here today, Senator, do you have any idea what the plan is in Syria, when U.S. troops will be leaving?
I know what the plan is as of, right now. I don't know what the plan is.
And what is
going
the
to be
plan
this
as of
afternoon.
right now? Is
Well,
it the John Bolton plan?
Yeah, what John Bolton said was, we're going to stay until ISIS is defeated. We're not going to
When's
abandon
that?
the Kurds. Well, that could be months or some longer period of time. It's totally different from what the president said a month ago. And that's one of the problems. And the tragedy is, Allison, it appears that this ill-founded, ill-considered policy is what drove Jim Mattis out. And here we are with John Bolton saying what I'm sure Mattis said a month ago, and yet we've lost Mattis. And I got to tell you, that's a real loss to the country.
Senator Angus King, great to have you here in studio.
Great to be with you.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
John.